Okay, let me ask you one more thing about Joe Biden. Donald Trump has attacked on personal and professional terms Joe Biden constantly throughout his time back in office, constantly. And the Biden people normally refuse to respond at all. When Donald Trump last night said, I'm ordering an investigation into Joe Biden's the use of the auto pen under Joe Biden. Not only did the Biden team respond, they put out a long statement from President Biden vociferously denying that he was not the one making decisions in the administration. Sean, what's your theory about why this particular action produced a robust and on the record response from Joe Biden?
Well, first and foremost, because if you don't, you're talking about not just undermining his legacy, but all of like potentially the actions that he took. You're saying those weren't legitimate and they need to be very clear. I think this is fundamental to his entire legacy writ large, but also to the specific actions he took. If they can poke a hole at it and say this pardon, this bill, this executive action he wasn't aware of, then you're starting. I mean, the house of cards starts to fall.
Well, but Trump has said a million things like this. And
Yeah, it's so
Dan,
fascinating they picked. I mean, first off, I just want to say that the auto pen thing is complete and utter nonsense. Every member of Congress, every president
oh,
uses
Dan, 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 I can't believe you're saying this. I cannot. That is not the issue. That is a red herring for
Flip
the
that, please.
Democrats and the media. No, it is a red herring. The question is it okay to use the auto pen? That's not what Donald Trump is arguing. But I cannot believe you are parroting this line. I'm truly shocked. Truly.
about what?
You went down the road that the media trying to protect Joe Biden is using, and that Joe Biden and the Democrats using. They say the auto pen is commonly used. Well, of course it is. That's not
Right.
the issue.
Send a
No,
wedding
Donald Trump.
I hear
or a
there's two
birthday.
there's the was he fully aware and functioning and making
That's
decisions?
the only issue. That's the
Well,
only
no,
issue.
but
Donald Trump is not saying how dare he use the auto pen.
Right.
that's
He's
exactly
actually
what
admitted
he's
to using
saying.
it.
No, he's saying the first thing. He's saying is the auto. He's alleging without evidence, but that doesn't mean the press is now back to saying without evidence. Well, it's true, it's without evidence, but it doesn't mean the press shouldn't be digging on it if they think it's possibly true, and it could be true. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I mean, look,
But Dan, but point is, it's not two issues. It's not. Is it okay to use the auto pen? And was the auto pen used without his knowledge to sign things that other people decided to sign? That's the only issue. The question of is the auto pen commonly used is not at issue.
But Mark, I 100% disagree with you because there are decisions made throughout White Houses, throughout congressional offices, without the principle in which an auto pen is used. It happens. Donald Trump is not aware of every single thing going out of the executive branch that has his name on it. There's no way.
Okay,
Right?
so
the
now I
issue
apologize.
is the
Now I
issue
apologize.
is
Hold on. I apologize to you because you're making a different point. You're making a third point, which I've not seen in any of the coverage. You're not saying is it okay to use the auto pen. You're saying it is regularly the case that auto pen signatures are affixed to decisions that the principals don't even know is happening.
correct.
That's what you're saying, Sean. Is that true?
I will tell you, having worked for two presidents, um, I think
God.
Dan might be writ large right, but Donald, you would never make a decision in Donald
On
Trump's
a
White House
macro
of
issue, of
consequential matters without
but
him knowing.
But Dan, are you talking about signing a constituent letter?
Well, no, but this is my point. To me, the question of was Joe Biden making what I'm going to call macro decisions, totally legit. Absolutely, we should be having this debate. I think there should be maybe even congressional investigations. Whether or not, because the way I keep reading this is they're talking about what was the auto pen used to sign, A, B, C, and D. And my point is the auto pen, and even forget the auto pen, because now most of it is you sign, it's saved on a inbox on a server, and you just attach the way we all do if you sign documents, they just put signatures on it. That latter part happens throughout government all the time.
Okay, but Dan, I will say this. I actually know during the first term, there were instances in which the staff secretary or their designee flew consequential matters.
Yes, to be
to
signed.
the president in
I agree,
person.
macro.
Okay,
Right?
but let's
But there's a recognition legally. And it wasn't just because Trump, like they wanted to make sure that it had his specific signature on that document.
So
I get it. When you get the thing that says, "Hey, congratulations, Dan, on your birthday. Melania and I send you the best wishes as you celebrate this year." Yes, that's digitally affixed.
Let's talk about pardons, because there's some analysis out there that some of the pardons that Joe Biden signed, he did not sign. Is that okay? In other words, if they say, Mr. President, here's a list of 20 people you say you want to pardon. Can we go with it? If he says yes, does he have to sign 20 pardons, or can the saved signature do that?
I don't know what the legality of that is.
So the answer, I've actually asked this question of attorneys. Legislation must, if you actually look at the Constitution, must be signed by the president, which is why this White House, term 1, term 2, have gone above and beyond to make sure that they physically hand him the document. There is some question about other executive orders or actions, whether or not, and on pardons, the Constitution is clear. It just say the president shall. It doesn't say he must sign. So I think the question on that we're asking, or the White House is really getting at, is a broader question of intent. Right? Does that matter that he knew? So it's not does the Autopen
That's legit. That's
totally
legit.
exist.
Yep.
But if you literally had somebody hack your computer because you were renegotiating your mortgage and hit DocuSign and said yes, 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 you could argue, I believe, and I'm not a lawyer, legally that you did not sign that document, even though it's a DocuSign. And I think that what the White House is getting to is was he aware when he made pardons or other decisions of what was happening in his name?
Yeah,
right.
And that's
so
legit.
Dan,
Yep.
yeah, Dan, did you accept my apology? Did you? Okay, I misunderstood what you were saying. You raised an excellent third point. Here's what I'll say about the coverage. Lots has to be scrutinied about Donald Trump. He frequently makes false accusations, and that has to be factored in when you're thinking about how to cover this accusation. But he's the president of the United States, and he's making an accusation about someone who we now know lied about some very big things. He lied about Biden Inc. He lied about the Hunter's laptop. He lied about the Georgia voting law. Like he's not someone who always tells the truth in public. And in this case, we also know quite clearly, we've known it all along. Jake Tapper learned it a few months ago, but we've all known it all along. He had moments where he was not ready to do the job of president. He had many moments when he was quite lucid, but he had moments where he wasn't ready to do the job. And is it possible that in some of those moments, things were signed without his full participation? It's possible. So the coverage today is all skeptical. It's all Trump's nuts, Trump about space lasers and Biden being replaced by a robot, and there's no evidence for this. Well, there isn't any that I know of. But the president of the United States, who won the popular vote, signed an executive order saying this needs to be looked into. And I think the press should at least be open to the notion that it might be true.
Well, and I think it's
it's
important to add, Mark, that I think one of the things that I've always worried about is in the United States Senate, when Robert Byrd and Strom Thurmond and others got very old, Dianne Feinstein, their staff essentially ran their office, right? The legislative directors and the chief of staffs made decisions. And you would literally kind of wheel the member out and say, you're going to vote yes. They didn't really know what they were voting on. Decisions were made about the district and about bills without their consent.
Totally.
And I've always worried that Joe Biden, who came out of that institution, who was very friendly with these members, thought, I may be declining, but there's a playbook to manage this where I'm still present, I'm still the president, but my team will make the decisions and carry the ship forward. And if that happened, then it is what you guys are talking about, which is the staff might have started to make decisions that he was not fully aware of, and that would be a scandal.
Yeah. Like what you see? Why don't you subscribe? This is a great opportunity to be part of unique conversations. Just hit the subscribe button. And if you want to watch our events live, go to twoway.tv.